On a random rainy day in May, I headed to the library in search of something guitar related. I didn't exactly know what I was looking for, just that I wanted to learn something new. I went to the music section and found books dedicated to the history of music, biographies by various musicians, and a surprisingly large number of books about the Beatles. But what I didn't know the library had until today were books that were a bit more technical. I'm talking books about how to play every guitar chord, Joe Satriani tab books, and books filled with exercises to really own your skills. So I picked out 3 and headed home ecstatic about my finds. One of the books I found was The Guitarist's Guide to Composing and Improvising by John Damian, and I knew immediately that this was a book I needed to read. I swear I just said that I wanted to improve my composing and improvising skills. I want to be able to do improv, I want to be able to write my own music. So here are a few ideas I took from this book and how I applied them. Alright, so Damian introduces a technique that he calls fireworks, where essentially you take a rhythm and you repeat that rhythm multiple times, but on each time you repeat it, you replace some notes with silence. So as you go along, there's more silence and less actual notes in the piece you're playing. So to try this out, I chose these chords. And I also wrote out a very simple rhythm, and I wrote out some variations of that simple rhythm as well, with some notes replaced with silence. I took those chords that I chose and the rhythm variations that I came up with, and I just kind of mixed and matched and played with them until I came up with this idea. The next idea of mine comes from Damian's explanation of direction. I liked his idea of contrary motion, where you have one guitar that's heading downwards, while at the same time another guitar is heading upwards. So my own take on this involved a chord progression that descended, while simultaneously there was a second guitar on top playing notes that ascended. And this actually turned out to be one of my favorite ideas that I've created, maybe in general, I don't know. I really liked it when I first made it, and even now I still feel pretty attached to this idea. So I would definitely like to create more things in a similar domain as this one. So yeah. The next 2 ideas come from this book, Mastering Contemporary Rock by Chris Amelar. And one thing to mention about this book is that it's supposed to come with some sort of audio accompaniment so you can hear the ideas in the tabs that are listed on the book. However, when I was at the library, I didn't see any CD or cassette that was attached to this book. I also tried looking online to see if I could find any sort of free MP3 file, but I couldn't find anything. Even if there was a CD, I have no way to play a CD. I don't have a CD player or anything like that, so that's one thing I guess to consider if you want to take out these type of books at the library, is that you may not be able to hear them. The first thing that stood out to me in this book is the fact that apparently the fifth mode of the harmonic minor scale is very often used in rock and metal. So, not to be basic, but I decided that I'm gonna try it out as well, because I like rock and metal. Also, this is about the time where I kind of started getting an urge to learn how to program drums, at least at a basic level. So that's a new skill that's being applied in this idea and kind of carries on throughout the rest of my ideas as well. I find that it makes my ideas feel a little bit more fleshed out, a little bit more full, and so I would love to kind of play with that more in the future as well. This next idea comes from my discovery of the blues scale. Not the green scale, not the red scale, but the blues scale. Specifically, I tried to feature the notes that make the blues scale different from the pentatonic scale. So this is what I came up with. This is the part of the video where the PC I use gets damaged, and so I take it to a repair shop, and after a really long time, like about a month-ish, the repair people get back to me and say that they successfully fixed the motherboard, not to be confused with the fatherboard, but there are issues with the GPU such that it needs to be replaced, and that repair is going to cost me $1,100. So at this point, I consider that potentially, possibly, maybe, I could be getting scammed. So I get the computer delivered back to me without going through with the GPU replacement, but still having to pay $200 for the motherboard repair, which may or may not be real. So yeah, at this point, once I got the computer back, I actually realized that this computer has an integrated graphics card, and what that means is that I'm able to still use the programs I use for recording guitar and for making super cool videos like this without needing an external GPU. So that's how I'm able to do this and continue on with this video. But the situation still remains unresolved. There's still no GPU in this computer, and that was kind of a tangent, but the point was to say a lot of time has passed between the last idea and the next idea that I'm about to show you. Anyways, about 2 months-ish have passed since the last idea. I have now renewed these library books like 2 or 3 times each, and my focus has now shifted onto this book, which is Improvising Rock Guitar by Ari Traum and Ari Funaro. And specifically, there's a bit in this book about minor chords, specifically a bit that says minor chords work very well in sequence, especially with a descending bass line. That becomes the inspiration for my next idea. In the book, they list a series of chords, starting with an A minor chord, where a note in that initial A minor chord is lowered by a semitone each time to generate a new chord in the sequence, if that makes sense. So essentially, they start with an A minor chord. The A note on the D string in that A minor chord becomes a G sharp note, part of an A minor major 7th chord. And then that G sharp note becomes a G note, part of an A minor 7th chord. and then that G note gets lowered to an F sharp note, part of an A minor 6th chord. I took exactly those 4 chords as they were written in the book and tried to do something with it. The book also mentions how this technique is used in songs like Stairway to Heaven, which is probably why the beginning of my idea kind of sounds like the clearance version of Stairway to Heaven, which is not what I was going for at all, but it was a good exercise nonetheless. This last idea comes from a section about reggae in the same book, where the book gives an example of how guitar, percussion, and bass can work together to form this simple reggae beat. So I took the rhythms that they had listed for the guitar and the percussion, and I kind of pasted onto those rhythms some chords that I liked, and that became the intro for this next idea that I'm about to share. This idea ended up being probably the most fleshed out of all of the ideas in this video, which was super cool, and it made me feel a bit more confident that maybe someday I could create a full song, and maybe that wasn't too far out of reach. So that's pretty much the end of this video, and I feel really good about this video. I feel like this might be one of my favorite videos that I've created so far, just because I feel like I've unlocked a lot of new knowledge in the process of creating this video, not only with the music theory and the guitar technique stuff, but also with other little things. Like, I think I have a better grasp of which camera angles work best with different lightings, so I'm kind of getting a little bit more of a feel of that. And also I found some new workflows with the music software that I'm using. And also I feel like I'm learning how to relax when I'm trying to record guitar and I need multiple tries to get the take I like. So I feel really good about all of that. I also think that all of the ideas in this video are better than the ideas I made in this other songwriting video not even that long ago. So I must be making some sort of progress, right? And that's really cool to see that I can listen to those and then listen to these because I recorded them. So I want to continue to do that, and I want this channel to be kind of like a diary of my guitar progression and maybe my progression in life in general as well. So I can see how things are coming along. I'm going on a tangent now. I guess it's always great to see someone who is at like the top level of their skill and they're playing like a sick cover or something like that. That's awesome. But I also like seeing the behind the scenes, or like how they came up with that and how they got to that point. I like watching that kind of progression, which is why I'm making these videos. Yeah, this is a tangent, but I would love to know if you liked any of these ideas, or if you have any feedback on where I could go with these ideas or how to make them better. I would really love to hear that. And yeah, I have a couple other video / guitar project ideas brewing in my mind right now, so hopefully more cool ideas coming soon.